Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's John Highbush. I have the honor, indeed it is an honor, to be the executive director of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, and I just want to thank everyone here for coming out this evening in honor of our men and women who defend our freedom around this world. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Please be seated. First, I want to say that my introduction of Ann is going to be uncharacteristically short and sweet because rather than have her give formal remarks, Ann has kindly agreed, which not many people do, to sit with me interview style and take questions about her book and a few related current events. I think most of you in the audience often find the give and take of an interview more interesting than prepared remarks, so that's what you'll be getting tonight. I also know that a number of you were able to submit questions for Ann, and I have them right here. So be sure, I'll be sure to ask several questions on your behalf as well. For the time being, what I'd like to note before Ann comes up is just how remarkable she is. Now, that's I say that for a number of reasons, but in this specific case, what I want to note is so remarkable, in fact it will be related to my first question to her, is how she's been able to write and get a book published that is so prescient and so relevant to this this election cycle we're in the span of just a few months. It is really quite a feat. I'm reminded of Babe Ruth and the story many of you might be familiar with, where in 1932 World Series between the Yankees and the Cubs, he went up to bat and he pointed to the flagpole where he was going to hit a home run, and then he did just that. Like so many of Ann's other books, this one is a home run, and it is definitely worth your time. If you haven't pre-purchased it before coming here tonight, there's still plenty of time after this event for you to buy the book and come through the line and say hello to Ann and get your book signed. I can't guarantee you that her autograph will be worth as much as Babe Ruth's, but someday it might be. This is Ann's second appearance at the Reagan Library. We are really delighted to have her back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd please join me in welcoming to the stage of the Reagan Library world-famous commentator and New York Times best-selling author, Ann Coulter.
That's really nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ann, so I read the book. I hope everyone here does. It's excellent, but it begs the question, when did you get the idea for the book? It seems like it must have been 20 years ago because you were able to pull it all together and get it published, and we still have another month before the election, and it's amazing you'd be able to do that. How did you pull that off?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who haven't read it, this isn't your standard campaign book. There is a lot of new information that you don't know. It's a little shorter than my usual books, but it is like most of my books. There's a lot of research in it. After Mitt Romney lost, I was more depressed than I think Mitt Romney was. I really thought, well, that's it. Teddy Kennedy did it. They had a plan to remake the country with the 1965 Immigration Act, and congratulations, you did it. It's over. We can't win anymore. And then I did sort of slowly emerge from that for various reasons. But when I wrote Adios America, which, thank God, and I'm not taking the Lord's name in vain, I mean that literally, thank God Donald Trump read Adios America. I thought at that point, maybe there's a 10% chance of saving this country, but it's worth a 10% chance, and that's why I wrote the book. And incidentally, I put Post-it notes on various pages so that other presidential candidates wouldn't have to read the whole book, but just certain important passages I wanted them to read. I sent it to many of the presidential candidates who ran this year. I sent it so many copies to the Koch brothers that I am sure their doormen and servants are totally with us on immigration. And then when Trump came along, this is it. From going from thinking we had a 10% chance, I don't say what the polls say today. I don't care what the polls say today. If Trump is polling at 30%, that's more of a chance than I thought this country had 2 years ago. So the moment he came along, and if you saw the recent New York Times Magazine piece on the Republican Party, and it was called something like, tension in the green room, about how the Republican Party and conservatives and pundits all hate one another now. They had a few quotes from me, and one was when I sat down with Trump. It was after the debate in which he bragged about the size of his penis, which I thought inadvisable. I was over at Mar-a-Lago. I didn't want to eat. He said, "Oh, skinny girls, you always claim you're so hungry, and then you sit down to eat and you don't eat anything." And I said, no, I ate. I only want to talk. I am the only person losing money trying to put you in the White House, and you're going to listen to me." And gave him various points, like perhaps not bragging about the size of his penis. But I realized, I couldn't think about writing another book. All I could think about was Donald Trump. Luckily, they would ask me for advice and help, and through Corey mostly. I think they were doing great when it was just the three of them, just Trump, Corey, and Hope Hicks. I think that was just fine because I could get a message right through. And so I was obsessed with it, and I can't say I really started writing until, I don't know if Cruz had actually conceded or if Trump had just won Indiana and Trump had effectively won. But certainly all I was doing from the moment Trump announced was studying Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe even in addition to your conversations with Donald Trump directly, and it seems to me like he almost had to have read your book, The Adios America, to have given the speech that he did in Phoenix. And I wondered, you gave really high kudos to that August 31st speech about immigration, and it seems as though he basically read through your book and put the notes together. Is that how closely tied you think it was?
Well, not so much anymore. He has a magnificent speechwriter, a friend of mine, Stephen Miller, who came from Jeff Sessions' staff, and I think he has very good people around him. But what I've noticed about Trump is, we know the downsides. We knew that from day one. I love that they keep thinking that, no, we have something even more vulgar, he said. Well, no, we knew all of that. What I didn't know about Trump until what I refer to as the Mexican rapist speech that won my heart was he has amazingly good instincts. I trust him to do the right thing on things that I wouldn't even care if he were going to not do the right thing on. As long as he's good on immigration, I really don't care about anything else. Then we'll fight about everything else. And by the way, this book is dedicated to a Democrat friend of mine, Mickey Kaus. I don't know if any of you follow him on Twitter. Kaus follows a very smart liberal, but he is a liberal. But he's the exception that proves the rule. He's a liberal who loves America. And he is so solidly with us on immigration. I took him to a party this summer when I was working on the book, and my friends had looked him up beforehand and said, "You've brought a liberal Democrat to this party." And I said, yes, but first we save America, then we'll argue about Obamacare. Right now, save America. So I wouldn't even care about Trump on some of these other issues, but I've been dying for someone to say what he's saying on trade. Finally, we have someone who cares about Americans more than transnational bankers. I thought my party, what I refer to as my ex-Republican party, now it's the new Trumpian party. I always thought the Republican Party was the party of the middle class, i.e. America. That was the great achievement of this country, that we had this vast, huge, prosperous middle class. And now we are moving ineluctably. You can dispute the reasons, but I think there's little question that we are moving ineluctably toward Brazil, where we have a very, very wealthy upper crust, the transnational bankers, and oh boy, their maids are cheap. And the rest of us will be their servants, their personal trainers, their flower arrangers, their maids and servants, and personal servants to the very, very wealthy. But that isn't America. We do need to be producing things and manufacturing things. So I love him on that. I love that he is appealing directly to African Americans, saying you've got nothing to lose. The Democratic Party has done nothing for you. They come and ask for your vote. Now, at the same time, I love that he isn't appealing to any other groups, qua groups. African Americans, as those of you who've read my book, Mug, know, I think that's a special category. They got the short end of the stick in this country for a few centuries, but wait, what do we owe someone who's just run across the border? What did we do to Somalians? No, you don't get affirmative action over an American. It's crazy what's happening. It's become just an explicitly anti-white movement. That isn't how Trump appeals to Hispanic Somalis, immigrants or non-immigrants. He's appealing to all of them as Americans, as people who want jobs, who want their wages to go up. And I love that what he's done recently, hitting Hillary back and hitting her hard on Bill Clinton. His instincts are so good. Sometimes his grammar drives you crazy. The hot mic tapes are I mean, I can't say I'm really that surprised. I say in the book, no one is voting for Trump because they like his personality. It's not his character. It's the issues. It's the issues. He's the only one that would talk about these things. So I think he doesn't really need me.
Tell me this.
Which is good. I'm busy.
One last piece on immigration. I don't recall, 3-4 days, maybe a week after he made the speech, you were on television after it felt like a little bit of backpedaling, and you made this statement, well, this might be the shortest book tour in the history of mankind. I wondered what's happened since then. Was it more of a kind of a gray, broad brush, stepping back and nothing specific, and you still trust him on the matter, or where do you think where does he sit?
I really did even at the time. I still trusted him. I mean, he's come under the most astonishing, relentless attacks, and do not imagine for 1 minute that this hot mic tape has to do with anything other than immigration. They've got to stop him. This is all-out war. And he has been under these attacks since June 16th, 2015. It would have been so easy for him to back down. It would have been so easy for him to soften his position so many times before this. And I never really thought very much of him until I mean, I didn't think one way or another. I didn't really think about Donald Trump, but I grew up in Connecticut, so he was always in the newspaper. And if you had asked me right up until June 15th, 2016, I would have said he was kind of a blowhard, a tacky, boorish lout, if you had pressed me. But once he announced, I went back and I started looking at interviews with him from 30 years ago, from 20 years ago. And the one thing that is absolutely consistent with Trump is he's always cared about Americans. He's always cared about the working class and American farmers. That one story I tell in my book, and saying, why are we sending all this money to foreigners who hate us? What about the American farmer? What about the American worker? That is so true with him. His heart is so true on that even when he makes mistakes, I really didn't believe it at the time. I now think the softening was, well, for one thing, it was totally great because it helped promote my book. It was the day my book came out. And I say on page 1 or 2, yeah, he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. The only thing he can't do is change on immigration. So that, of course, was being quoted back to me. I went on hardball. I just read, it had just come across the transom as I'm walking out there. Chris Matthews mentioned it to me, and I said, if that's true, this is going to be the shortest book tour ever. Day the book is out. But the only time the media notices me these days is when I have some slight constructive criticism for Trump, and then suddenly, oh, criticizing Trump. I met that kid, that wonderful kid, who was beaten up by a mob down in, where was it? But anyway, he was because he was wearing a Trump hat. You probably saw the videos. It's hideous. It was L something. L. Cajon, that's it. Thank you. El Cajon. Well, I had brunch with him last week, and I told him he could do this, but I can't. And it's a great idea because he wants to get on TV. And I said, they're not putting any Trump supporters on TV. It's the debates are between Democrats who hate Trump and never Trump Republicans who hate Trump. But I said, I have a great idea now that you have a little bit of publicity. You know, do some interviews. I can get you on some radio. You're going to be totally pro-Trump. And then who knows, they'll be hysterical about something and then come out and make a big statement. I've changed my mind. I'm against Trump. They will put you on, insist that it be live TV. No pre-tapes. And scam the media because that would be a good way to get on TV. I thought about doing it myself, but I'm pretty sure no one would fall for it with me. So he promoted my book. I think he may have been coming under pressure from some of his advisors then. I mean, up until very recently, Rudy, and perhaps they still are, Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie, Sean Hannity, Roger Ailes, all for open borders. So maybe they were pressuring, oh, you have to soften your position, you have to appeal to the soccer mom. So maybe he thought, okay, let's float a trial balloon and see how the grassroots reacts. Let's do this. I'll do this for you guys. Well, the grassroots responded. And they responded thunderously. And the other thing he accomplished, and I do think he has such savvy instincts, as he did with that press conference before the debate Sunday night. The media has been refusing to cover his speeches live. He's been giving magnificent speeches, and they will not cover them. I'd watch them online and then turn on TV, and all I'd hear on TV is, oh, it was awful, it was dark, it was terrible, you didn't trust us, you don't want to see this. But he tricked the entire media into covering one of the most fabulous speeches I've ever seen.
Yeah. Everyone in the audience has asked the person next to him this question. You've been asked it 100 times since Sunday, I'm sure, but how do you think he did in this recent debate?
Absolutely magnificently well, and I knew he would. I knew he would. One thing to remember about Trump is, and this is mostly from talking to people who've done business with him in New York, and I guess observing him just in the past year, but people who know him always say he's at his best when his back is to the wall. When he thinks he's losing, that's when he comes out fighting. And it was, I knew it would be a good debate. And I think Hillary and maybe even the media were thinking, oops, maybe we shouldn't have made him so mad last week. Because that move, bringing in Juanita Broaddrick, Kathleen Willey, Kathy Shelton, and he didn't tell the press what, I wasn't watching TV, maybe some of you know what exactly happened. I kind of had TV on in the background, but I wasn't really watching, I think I was out. But my understanding is he just sent out a press release saying, I will be making a major statement 2 hours before the debate. So of course the press thinks it's going to be about the hot mic tape. And maybe he's withdrawing. So the press comes and there he is at the table with the victims of both Bill and Hillary Clinton. And I'm so glad he brought up this Kathy Shelton. I've been dying to get that out there. And I knew it would play exactly as it played. Hillary has no place to go, for those of you who didn't watch the debate, probably none of you, and don't know about Kathy Shelton. She was the 12-year-old girl who was brutally raped, brutally, horribly raped, when she was 12 years old, left in a coma for 5 days, left infertile from this brutal rape. And who was her lawyer? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, or not her lawyer, sorry, his lawyer, the rapist lawyer, the child rapist lawyer. And she pulled some sleazy tricks. She accused this 12-year-old girl about fantasizing about sex with older men. She pulled a trick. They had already cut out the DNA from the underwear, and then it did match Hillary's client, but they threw that away. So she, as a lawyer, demanded that the remaining part of the underwear be tested. This was a long time ago, back when DNA testing, I suspect it may not have even been DNA. Everybody says it's DNA. It was probably blood, because we didn't really get DNA testing until the late 80s. They threw away the underwear, so it was a trick. It was a scam. There's nothing to test now. The rapist, horrible child rapist, got off of time served, 2 months for this rape that left this 12-year-old girl infertile. Hillary is heard on tape laughing about it, laughing about how he passed a polygraph and ha, that destroyed my faith in polygraphs, and ha. Well, I saw last night on Anderson Cooper, 360, I just thought, how are they going to defend this? They're going to do what they always do. Liberals do not have a sense for normal Americans, and they think it's a good argument to say, it's a lawyer's duty to defend her client. She has to do everything to get her client. Okay, good luck with that. Good luck with that with the American people. And that's what they were saying, and I was just watching it in heaven, thinking this is what I've been waiting for. That was great. His debate performance was fantastic. And you know it was fantastic because the media's response was, A, not to play clips of it, B, to announce the real loser tonight was the American people. And to send out casting calls for any lunatic who will come forward and claim that once she was inappropriately touched by Donald Trump. That's coming next.
Yeah. I know he went forward in the debate. He gave his apology. He did all those things, and then immediately 10, 20, 30 important Republicans on the House and Senate and governor's side said, I'm out of here. I'm just wondering to what extent you've commented or you'd want to comment on whether there's any bit of hypocrisy here where it just seems to me to be an important question.
Yes. Well, the main hypocrisy, and whenever I talk about it, I'm trying to write my column about this tonight. It goes up tomorrow night, and I realize I'm having so much trouble because I keep going to words that would be considered locker room talk when I think about the media.
Yeah.
It's the media, these lying, hypocritical swine. I mean, I launched my career with high crimes and misdemeanors over Bill Clinton, who was credibly accused of raping a woman. And NBC News held their investigative report, basically proving that it was true, until after the Senate had voted on Clinton's impeachment. They held that. For 1 year, I had to listen to, oh, everybody does it, let's move on, everybody does it, let's move on, with a genuine sexual predator and rapist. And of course, there's Teddy Kennedy, who actually killed a girl 11 years before he ran for president. Killed a girl, not only did he never apologize, he ran as the conscience of the Democratic Party, Teddy Kennedy. So I think, this hot mic tape, we've hit the 11-year rule that was applied to Teddy Kennedy. The way they flip back and forth. The one thing is the only sex scandals the media believes are the ones that are false. Mattress Girl, Duke Lacrosse, the Rolling Stone UVA case. Oh, suddenly, these fainting Victorian virgins. And then we have actual rapist in the Oval Office, actual groper, sexual predator, and the vilification of his accusers from the beginning. They will turn on a dime, and I will say when I walked into, I know you were talking about the Republicans, and I'll get back to them in a moment, but it's really the media I hate the most. They really are such swine. When I found out about the hot mic tape when I walked into Breitbart's offices on Friday, and they told me about it and said they weren't sure until they saw my face fall. And they thought, oh, it's over. Because it is tough, it's on tape. And so I was pretty depressed that night. And then I started watching TV. And oh my gosh, the sanctimony, the hypocrisy. I think this could end up, this is Anita Hill all over again. And you can push Americans too far. I think the fake media scandals may have gone on a little too far, like the ones I described, Mattress Girl at Columbia, UVA, Duke Lacrosse. How about Ferguson? And all the people I saw, different sort of case, but all the people I saw lying for 6 months on TV, and then unfortunately it takes us 6 months, a year to get the truth, to destroy this policeman's life. Well, they're going to try to do that same thing with Donald Trump. They are taking casting calls for some loon to come forward and accuse him. And there are only a few weeks until the election, and I think we just have to remind people of Ferguson, of Mattress Girl, of the Rolling Stone. I mean, the Rolling Stone case with my favorite figure in literature, Haven Monahan. That was the invented boyfriend of this lunatic girl who falsely accused the fraternity of rape. Haven Monahan. It's like something out of one of those, what are they called, the bodice ripping, pot boilers. Haven Monahan. I make reservations at restaurants with that name. Haven Monahan. We just have to remind Americans we have been through this before. We went through it with Ferguson. We went through it with a lot of these, the alleged police racist shootings cases. We go through it with the sex cases all the time. The truth won't come out until after the election. You just have to remind yourself how much you hate the media. This is a war. You have to ask yourself why you have the entire media and the entire political class trying to stop this man, because he's going to save this country for all of us and not just them. No matter, I mean, I think that is the only way to be pushing this issue now for people's hatred of the media. And as for the Republicans who turned against Trump, maybe I'm wrong, but they were all already against Trump. I mean, some of them may have been finally cajoled into saying, oh, okay, I endorse him. The same way Trump said he supported the war in Iraq. Well, I guess. But they were all either aggressive never-Trumpers or, had slowly signed on to it. As far as I can tell, I mean, obviously I'm worried, a lot is in the balance, but as far as I can tell, I can't find anybody who was for Trump who's now against him. Now, we always worry about the easily suggestible independents. People aren't paying that much attention to politics. They get this browbeating just nonstop from the media. And I think a lot of normal people say, okay, if it means that much to you, I won't vote for him. But I don't know how many of those will come out to vote. One thing I feel confident of is Trump voters are going to come out to vote. And we still have some time to go. We still have one more debate. Nobody likes Hillary. If Trump gets 100% of his voters to vote and she only gets 80%, 90% maybe even, he can still win.
The other argument, the other point that the media seemed to want to make a lot of out of the debate beyond this, the apology and the tape, was their portrayal of this being an unprecedented act for, they put him in the ranks of Stalin and Hitler, for him to be saying that as president he would ask the Justice Department to appoint a special prosecutor. What is, tell me, I mean, that was just stunning to me that we were making these leaps. Yes. And I just wondered what you thought of that whole play.
I've been taunting liberal journalists on Twitter over that one. They're insane. They suddenly adopt this hyper-literalism. They do not get jokes. I mean, to jump back to a few of my favorites, I was watching Trump live when he was giving that press conference and said, hey, in Russia, if you're watching, if you guys could get those 30,000 Hillary tapes, I burst out laughing. I'm standing alone in my room packing, and I burst out laughing. It was hilarious. And suddenly, the first time a presidential candidate has called on a foreign government. And it's the same thing. I mean, there were the two statements in the debate. One was, which again, I laughed out loud at, and so did members of the audience, when Hillary said, well, I'm just glad you're not in charge of the law in this country. And he said, yeah, because you'd be in jail. It was great. We have to instruct our journalist brethren. That's what's known as a joke. And then as for his serious point, if I'm president, and I loved how he began it by saying, I didn't want to say this, but if I'm president, I am appointing a special prosecutor to look into you. Now, the hysteria, you're totally right, of people saying this is like a third world dictatorship. To prosecute your political opponent. No, morons. He's not going to prosecute her for running against him. That's what the third world does. He would prosecute her for committing crimes. But I mean, the fact that they can almost confuse you with their jabberwocky sometimes. I have to, I mean, this column of their hypocrisy, I can't write it today because A, I start wanting to engage in locker room talk, and B, I mean, it would go on, it would be half the length of this book, their hypocrisy. But I have to work in, because I can't even watch TV. I can't do it. Usually I love to hate watch TV, but it's getting to be too much even for me. But I did see Lisa Bloom on TV, and now apparently this is considered, oh, good one, Lisa, we're using this too. They are fact-checking Trump, saying he wasn't in a locker room. I'm sorry, I'm like a dog listening to a high-pitched noise. I can't even follow. And then there's another one that I think I haven't tweeted about this yet, and some conservatives may be getting confused by this, but this question about they're insisting, and with earnest, righteous anger, that what he is describing is against the law. He is describing committing sexual assaults, and should he be prosecuted for this? Well, no. He didn't say I did it, by the way. He says, if you are a star, he says you know, if you want to be hyper-literal, what he's saying is girls will do anything to sleep with a rich man. I don't know if you've heard that before. It's a really original point. So when people like Jeff Sessions and other people say, he's not describing sexual assault, they're right. I want to know what the question was. Is what Donald Trump said on the tape describing a sexual assault? Correct answer, no. Is it a sexual assault to grab a woman's locker room word here, which I'm so sad about. I was trying to bring that word back. Not the way he used it in his locker room talk, though he was not standing in a locker room, but just to mean, you know, a wuss. I just think it's stronger than wuss. I thought I was just on the cusp of bringing it back, and now it's gone again. Now it's gone. But the sexual assault business, no, he's saying women will do anything with a star.
Yeah. Okay, so you do think he can still pull this out?
Yes. Yes. We'll see. We still have time, but we're going to have to fight. And I think, if anything, this at least energized some of us. Because from what I can tell from talking to people, and again, most of my people are not undecideds. Who would be undecided? I've always been curious about these people.
Yeah. After this long.
I know, but not to have a position on the Supreme Court, immigration. Should we open up our border? Should we bring in more Muslim refugees? No, I don't have an opinion. I just can't decide. I just can't imagine who these people are. I can't imagine they're going to be rushing out to the polls. But from the emails and from talking to people, the Trump supporters have just redoubled themselves in their anger at the media over this. I feel the same way. This has happened twice before in my lifetime, and I hope I am describing the same thing that I think could be happening now. The first time was with Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill. That was right after Bork had explained to Americans who I think were not paying attention, were probably undecided on how important the Supreme Court is, and he wrote about what we realized we had been fooled, or not we. Some Americans realized they had been fooled by the whole attack on Judge Bork and the lies about him by Teddy Kennedy and others. And they realized, oh my gosh, we've been had. They demonized this man so that they can, well, we didn't realize, push through transgendered bathrooms and abortion on demand. And so when they pulled that nonsense with Clarence Thomas, our side woke up and was angry and fought back. It was the first time we fought over a Supreme Court nominee. And the other time I saw this happen was when they tried to steal Florida in the 2000 election. Because usually the rule is any close election will be stolen by the Democrats, i.e. Al Franken. And people, Americans, Republicans, realized Bush had won, but this is close enough. They're going to steal it, and we weren't going to let that happen. And I think if enough conservatives and Republicans react, at least the way I and my friends are, no, you are not doing this. You are not pulling a Ferguson or a Duke lacrosse case to defeat our candidate. You're not doing it this time. If our side reacts that way, then yes, he can definitely win.
Yeah. There's no question, you can tell when he steps into an auditorium, he's got 30,000 screaming people, and you can just imagine the energy that's channeling through him and why he feels like he can win. But it seems like in order for him to win, some have called it the Nixon silent majority, you call it whatever you want, that there really does need to be an equal or greater number of people that feel just like those that are in the auditorium, but just aren't there, but they're going to go vote.
Right.
Is that your sense? Is if there just needs to be enough of those people to overcome the size of Hillary's vote? Yes.
Obviously Hillary will be cheating. There will be lots of foreigners voting. There will be lots of dead people voting. There will be, you have to win big. But part of the intensity is not just being in the stadium with him. It's that you go and you talk to your neighbors and your coworkers. That intensity can go out in concentric circles. I know people who are intensely, passionately for Trump who have never been to a rally. And they're really fun if you haven't been to one. But you don't need to go to one. But I think those people are putting up signs, talking to their neighbors, and that's where intensity really does make a difference. I was walking, this was a few months ago, I was walking late at night in New York with a friend. How long ago was this? This may have been in like December or January. And I was walking home from meeting some other friends with another friend. It's like 2 in the morning, and it's the Upper East Side, some drunk guy walks by and yells out, "Ann Coulter, go Trump!" And I said to my friend, now, you walked around New York City with me back when I was a passionate Mitt Romney supporter. Do you remember that ever happening? Because I do not.
Yeah. Well put. If you were called tonight to become the campaign manager for the last 28 days and take over, and that's possible. Can you give me 2 or 3 things that you'd say, okay, we're going to do this, and this?
the main thing is Trump wins on issues. Keep talking about the issues. That's why he didn't do as well in the first debate. He did get, I mean, on one hand, I'm sort of torn because on one hand, I disagree with the general Republican philosophy of, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. No, you do have to hit back, but I think Trump got too distracted by the personal baggage. They are trying to destroy our movement with Trump's personal baggage. It was never about Trump as a person. He's got to remember that. Look, he can say, that's a lie, check my webpage, and he can have this brilliant speechwriter typing up his responses on the webpage as the debate goes on, or as anything goes on. But don't respond to the personal stuff, other than, I mean, there is going to be more crap coming out. You know there will be. You know there will be, you know there will be. So they are going to have to, and I love his idea of going after Hillary for defending the child rapist and Bill Clinton for being a rapist. Not just to say you're worse, but to say, look at the media. That's the point. The media are trying to steal this election for Hillary Clinton. That's what the point is. But then go back to the issues. Muslim immigration, the wall, trade. She's for Trans-Pacific Partnership. She is. She called it the gold standard. She can try to get out of it. She can try to lie about it. She wants endless wars. I think Americans are tired of war. I mean, I was the biggest Iraq war supporter there was. But that was before I realized we lived in a country that would elect a man like Barack Obama, who would turn our victory into a defeat. And looking at what happened there now, and I'd still, if you sent me back to 2003, I would still support the Iraq war. But looking at what the result is now, I say to all of my friends who were also Iraq war supporters, we were all for it back then. Would you do it again now? No. Everything we were being accused of back then, being warmongers and neoconservatives, and we just want constant war, and it's the military-industrial complex, I thought they were out of their minds. Now I see who they're talking about. Half my allies really do want permanent war. Neither I nor my friends do, and you know, as I've pointed out, this is how the Bolsheviks won. Russians were tired of war. We're tired of war. We've been fighting a lot. We're losing our best Americans. Can we finally have a president who cares more about our borders than Ukraine's borders? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.